Hello and welcome back to Into the Chatterverse, where two gents share their 2 cents on pop media. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
And I'm Bill, and I apparently don't know how to turn the mics on.
Hey, I didn't see it either, so all fair.
Well, no, we were too busy discussing everything before, and I just didn't it didn't even dawn on me. I'm like, and I look at it all the time. It's when I'm looking down, and I'm like, and it didn't even register with me that, hey, it's not recording.
That's all right.
Hey.
No.
But you know, it's still up.
It's
and
up
if
there.
you can read lips,
you can figure it out.
You'll be entertained.
Absolutely.
If you're listening in a podcast and reading lips, wow, you are talented.
Good. You are the best.
And you need to buy lottery tickets.
Buy us some too while you're at it. We'll split with you. Absolutely. Okay, so there was a big announcement on Deadline today, and it is that a property from Rob Liefeld, Evangeline, has been picked up by Warner Brothers, and it has Margot Robbie and Olivia Munn attached to it. And this is an interesting thing to me because Evangeline is one of those characters that I am vaguely aware of because I was reading comics at the time. It was the 90s bad girl era, if you will. Not a book that I ever picked up. I couldn't tell you what it's about. I don't know anything about the series, the character, anything.
Yeah.
But I do know that she is a Rob Liefeld creation. And my first thought was, it's interesting to me because I can't say that I've ever heard anyone go, Evangeline, I love that book. I've never seen a cosplayer, nothing.
Right.
So I was curious, is there a set time period that kind of very, for opportunities for characters to see multimedia that they should probably exist? I think there are a few things that might be one-offs that are very special. I'm looking at Robert Kirkman's, Walking Dead.
Right.
Wasn't around that long before it was a TV series. Invincible, same thing. Mark Miller's work, Wanted is a big one. Kick-Ass is another big one. The Kingsman is another big one. But he kind of built a pipeline for himself to do that. Which I
love that you're ruining your own argument by everything you're listening to.
But no,
except for these 100 things over here.
There's five. There's five of them.
There's 60,000 things. But other than those, this should not be
it doesn't count. Well, no, because I think those are pushed by those specific creators, right? So those guys have done it.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it took us as long as it did to get the Avengers. It took, in terms of full feature motion picture, it took almost 40 years, it did take 40 years for us to get Superman. It took a while for these things to be a part of pop culture before a movie, feature-length movie adaptation type thing was even in the works. And I was curious, considering that Evangeline is a 1995 product, is that actually what we should be considering, when something gets made, not to look for it to immediately jump into multimedia, but it should kind of last for a while to make sure it's got legs and works.
Well, I think when it comes to movies, it's whether or not you feel you can make the movie.
Oh, I like that.
It's not, it's... Sure, they could have made Avengers.
Right. It would have looked like
It would look like rubber suits or spandex.
Right.
And really bad special effects, because even you look at Superman made in the 70s, and I would say that was even bad special effects for the time.
Really,
to be honest with you.
Okay, all right.
Because it was blue screen then, it's not green screen, and
right.
and so there were times you're just as much as I enjoyed it,
right?
It's just that's not great.
Okay.
And then later on, you could see where they're using miniatures and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But obviously the budgets went further down.
Of course.
Like Planet of the Apes.
Oh. Hey, but that's coming back, right? Yay!
Yeah, Disney's finally putting out a movie in the second quarter of the year. it only took them, the fifth month of the year to put out new product.
Okay, we're gonna pause what we were talking about. We're gonna talk about that real quick because you have such a very pointed place when it comes to understanding how that should have worked.
Yeah.
And okay, so what did Disney do, quote unquote, versus what they could have done?
They put out Pixar movies.
Which ones?
I know that Soul was one of them.
It's a sweet movie, but not.
And I can't remember what the other one was.
Okay.
But those were the movies that they put on Disney Plus instead of putting in the theaters.
Why would you do that? Why?
Because they're trying to say, hey, you really need to watch Pixar movies in movies on movie theaters, unlike what we tried to get you to do, which we've
trained you to not
we've conditioned you to stay home.
Okay, so
they put nothing outside of those two movies in the first quarter of the year.
That hurts me. Specifically, okay, when did they drop Soul? In February? Was it a Black History Month type venture?
You know what? That doesn't even... I want to say it was January.
Dang it!
I can't.
That's not even smart.
I can't even tell you.
That hurts.
I don't. It probably was. It probably was March. If I'm being honest, I don't really remember. I remember being out, and I'm like, why are we doing this?
I guess the thing that gets me, that truly perplexes me, is considering the library that Disney has access to. Any of the choices that they could have made in terms of re-releases would have been better.
Yeah, it was January.
Dang. Not even for Black History Month. Disney, what are we doing? But like, okay, you brought up that they could have led up to a Star Wars piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Every 2 weeks even, you could have shown a different Star Wars.
Right. So it's the 25th anniversary of Episode 1.
Right.
And that starts...
What does it
This
say?
is the thing that kills me. That starts this Friday. They're not allowing Thursday night shows. I'm like, spoilers? What?
What do you mean?
What? I'm like, why not? Like, that's fine. Whatever.
Okay. All right.
Okay. What they could have done, I mean, because there are 4 months leading up to this, they could have released the original trilogy, not all at one time, once a month. They could have started in February.
Yeah.
You know, episode 4, February, March, episode 5, episode 6 in April, to lead up to it, because
that's the way it came out.
Yeah, that's the release. So I don't know what Disney's doing. I don't think they know what they're doing. I mean, you brought up a good one that they should have put out.
5-year anniversary Endgame.
Yeah,
You put together Infinity War and Endgame double feature.
Yeah, well, maybe not a double feature, because that's like 5.5 hours. Something.
I would do it. You figure there's some places that will be able to do that, right? But maybe you do.
I just don't think you blow it all in one time.
I mean, that's fair. I just consider them like a part 1, part 2.
If they had other stuff coming out, then I would agree with that.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
It's bad marketing and I can't believe I'm saying this, on Disney's part. The whole first quarter is just terrible.
And it makes me... Okay, so one of the things that we talked about in the muted Deadpool episode is whether or not Deadpool will hit $1 billion. And I said that if in the spiral Doctor Strange teleportation thing that is clearly blacked out for spoiler reasons, if they jump into Endgame, yes, it'll make $1 billion. I'm now questioning whether or not they're actually going to jump into Endgame, because, again, 5-year anniversary of Endgame, you've got people super excited about it, and 2 months later, there's another tie-in to it through Deadpool, if that's what happens? That would be hilarious and brilliant.
Yeah. But is that what Ryan Reynolds wanted to do?
I don't know. But that part should be up to him.
By the way, I'm going to go ahead and say that the last episode was my homage to X-Men Origins Wolverine.
You just muted the Merc with the Mouth? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, we did a whole muted episode.
I like it. That is excellent. So, yeah, unfortunately, yeah. But to that end, kind of bringing it all back around. So, you were kind of saying that there was a different motivation for this Evangeline package being picked up. And it's not about necessarily the character, but the creator who's attached to it.
Yeah, because Deadpool, Rob Liefeld.
I had not thought of it that way.
Yeah,
and I think that's a very
Hollywood thing.
Yeah,
if you can't copy something, you get the person that made it
to do something.
do something else.
Okay. Do you think that this is a huge statement, if not opportunity, really, for comic creators? Because considering Deadpool is clearly, it's a Rob Liefeld co-creation, but it's not his character, right? Like, he doesn't own it. It's not his toys to play with. Is this part of that opportunity that indie or self-publishing creator-owned comic creators should be paying attention to, that says, okay, if you did something for a mainstream property and it's taking off, you need to start being in those rooms so you can start pitching stuff.
Yeah. There's also another thing that we're forgetting about. There's a friend of his that works in Warner Brothers. It's pretty high up.
Friend of Rob's?
Yes.
Are they friends? Are they really?
Well, friends could be in quotes.
Okay, fair.
But they were business partners at one point in time.
Really?
Image.
Wait, who are you? Wait. Who are you qualifying as this friend from Image?
Mr. Lee.
I don't know why. I absolutely was not considering him as part of the Warner Brothers package. Clearly, co-publisher of DC Comics. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But I was like, James Gunn? No. Kevin? No.
No.
But Jim. Okay.
But I could see why you would think James Gunn, but no, that wasn't thinking James Gunn.
Okay. It's different Jim. Jim. Okay.
Though I think that James Gunn probably could draw feet. Not trying to say James Gunn has a foot fetish.
That's Quentin Tarantino. But yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. So a way of trying something out, seeing what new thing can happen.
But it could. It's twofold.
Okay.
He's a known quantity, regardless of how people feel about him.
Right.
He's fairly successful at what he does. I don't know what the numbers were on his Image comics.
I mean, he did pretty well in those first runs.
He had quite a following when it came to New Mutants.
Yes.
I remember reading it, and I can't say enjoyed his. It was interesting.
Right.
His artwork was interesting.
Yeah.
Till the point I was just like, I got tired of it. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about Rob's artwork. I think it is catered to the 11 to 15-year-old boy readership.
Yeah, and yes.
And once you grow out of that, maybe it gets you.
Well, and his weapons are interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And then, did he co-create Cable?
Yes. Yes, he did.
That's an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, I mean they're very solid benchmarks in Hollywood, metrics. I think. So if you look at it and go, even if people are roasting him, they're still talking about him, and there's an opportunity that as long as he's not super hands-on about it, you can take a concept of his, mold it into something else that you need it to be, and make that work. So I'm kind of curious about it because I have no preconceived notion of what the series could be, should be, or anything. So wide open for what that's going to turn into.
Yeah, well, it just depends. I think it's going to depend on him, on what kind of pushback he has on his character.
Right.
There are certain things that I think that the creator should be involved with, and I don't have a problem with them being involved with the movie aspect of it. But also, you have to remember that movies are not comic books.
Very true. Very, very true.
And that they're made. They're supposed to make money.
Yes.
I mean, that's the whole point of
movies.
That's
the key piece.
Well, big studio movies.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll say smaller studios are more about artistry or something like that.
But also their budgets aren't, $100 million.
Right.
They make movies for $5 to $15 million.
Yeah.
And the actors make these big movies so they can make the smaller movies.
Sure.
But as long as and I have no problem with him going, that's not the way the character should be.
Right.
But I also don't have a problem with the studio going, okay, maybe not like that, but, would you concede this part?
Right. I think Rob is a good enough businessman to know there are certain things to argue for. It's certain things, but have at it.
We'll see. Because if it doesn't get made,
then we'll know that he didn't do that. That's true. Yeah. But and then the other thing for me is a question of considering that this series. I think the last time I've heard of anything about it was sometime in the early aughts. So it's been, I would say, at least 15 years.
Yeah, I think that it
came out?
leans even harder on the fact that it's Rob Liefeld.
Okay.
But I don't disagree with your point on waiting, because then you have a lot of backstory, especially when it comes to the older stuff. The stuff with Marvel and DC and how many different times they rebooted without rebooting.
Yeah.
You have different takes on the same character. Some are minor, some are major.
Right.
And that just gives you an entire catalog to work from.
True.
Now, when you do stuff like Watchmen and it's a beat by beat remake with just a few things that are changed, and I'm on Alan Moore's side, unfortunately. I think Alan Moore is a great creator.
Sure.
I don't necessarily agree with his business, but also I'm not Alan Moore, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
If he doesn't want something made, I respect that.
Sure. But you also signed that deal.
And that's the problem,
right.
Is that he had a handshake deal, but did he?
Right.
You can say that,
but
is that the reality?
Right. Now that you've brought it up that way, I do have to wonder if that is part of the reason that people are feeling a certain kind of way about the MCU. And the lack of great stories. The places that they're going in terms of stories are so very new that there's not a lot of back catalog to really build upon that. Like, with all due respect to Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson being Cap is very recent. Winter Soldier, very recent. Getting into Civil War, very recent stuff, versus how at least Phase 1 started, which was very classic depictions, if not modernized, but classic depictions of these characters that have been around since the 60s. So you had a lot of stuff that you could kind of seed in there. Tony's drinking. Like, they never actually did Demon in a Bottle, but they kind of did Demon in a Bottle.
They hinted at it.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if they were going to go in that direction, and then they didn't. And I wasn't disappointed in that, but it was just one of those things that I knew was there, and I was wondering if they were going to go there, and they didn't. And I'm like, that's fine. What they ended up doing was fine. But as far as Civil War goes, and I tried to read it, and I just got like, there's just too many crossovers in that kind, and I should just read the comic. But I mean, how much is the movie like the comic book?
Not at all.
Okay, and you know what? It was a good story.
Yeah. They did tell a really good story, and the only thing that you have that is the same is Cap and Iron Man.
It's funny how they told how big of an was that, a 12 issue? 8 issues.
Yeah.
So, and they did a 2+ hour movie.
Yeah.
Told a pretty good story, and it only took 3 seconds for X-Men 97 to go, call me the Goblin Queen.
Well,
I'm sorry. Where did that come from?
No. That came from the heart. I felt that one. That came from the heart.
Call me Madeline Pryor. I'm the Goblin Queen.
I'm the Goblin Queen. Wait, what?
Wait,
you used to be Jean like this morning. What happened?
And as much as I didn't like the original, but I had having gone through the whole thing, at least they took the time to tell the Phoenix story. Even though I hate the Phoenix Force. I mean, I like the idea that that Jean Grey became this character.
Not that it was a separate
Not that
entity.
it was like, she was possessed.
It's gonna borrow you for a minute.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway.
The last 3 episodes of X-Men 97 are supposed to be the best ones, according to the fired showrunner.
Well, it's been entertaining outside of that part. And telling stories entirely too quickly, but there's more story in these than
the previous version.
When there was really 19 minutes worth of story.
Yeah.
And even that was too long.
No, I get that. I totally get that.
And the animation's much better.
Yes.
There's just some things that
I think the animation as a whole is considered better than it was in the 80s, early 90s. Like, animation back then was a vehicle to sell a toy.
Yeah.
And now it's like, this is a viable storytelling.
Yeah.
So,
but
pretty good.
Wasn't that on about the same time as the Batman animated series? And that was fairly minimalistic, but still worked really well.
True. But I don't know that... Okay, that's an interesting one, because I don't know that Batman the Animated Series had toy tie-ins at that time. They were still selling stuff from like the movies, which I always figured was, in a weird sort of way, why they didn't necessarily focus on toys like that. Like they focus on toys like later seasons, but like when Batman the Animated Series came out, it was just to tell Batman stories.
Okay, but it was still
they were still
on the same time.
Yeah, no. Still
I don't know why that makes a difference.
Well, I just wonder, like, if it's for telling or if it's for selling toys, they don't invest that much because they're like, well, the thing that we want you to get is the toy. That's all we care about, really. So the animation can be subpar as long as it's interesting enough that you'll go buy this toy.
Yeah.
But Batman the Animated Series, they were about the stories. Like that's why it was so great. And I just think it was a different mindset of what a cartoon could be.
Yeah.
And should be. Bruce Timm should definitely be involved in the DCU.
I think he should have a voice. I don't know that he should be like running because for TV versus especially animation versus movies. Though I think he should be involved. I definitely think because he did do a very good job. He did a great job with the DC animated stuff.
I did see somewhere, and I don't know if it was just speculation or whatever, but someone was saying that James Gunn, paying attention to X-Men 97, might greenlight bringing back the Justice League cartoon to continue aspects of what that is, because it was arguably the most successful, wide, expansive version of...
are they talking in terms of continuity within the DCU, or is it continuity within the Justice League?
The Justice League universe, just retapping that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't. It would be interesting to use Bruce Timm to set the stage for anything for the DCU. I think that would be interesting, but that could be very complicated at the same time.
Yeah, I just I don't mind like the TV tying into the movies. The other way around kind of bothers me.
I got you.
Especially when you go back to the Marvels.
Right.
You had to have Disney Plus in order to know who two of the characters were.
It's true.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. No.
And it flopped. But that it didn't flop because of that. It flopped because it wasn't a very good movie.
It had places that it could have been so much better. Without question. Okay, so to the end of the time that it takes for a project to kind of come about, I think also that as a indie creator, this is kind of a hopeful glimmer. I think there's a ton of us that thought we're striking while the iron's hot, and Hollywood either passed on us, didn't take notice, or anything. But there's never, unless it's I'm just going to say there's never a time where it might not happen or that it can't happen. Like there's always an opportunity if you're still grinding,
right.
In some way, shape, or form, even if it's not even a matter of that project being the thing, but you being the thing. There's always a chance for these projects or properties to find new light in new media. Just put your nose to the grind, keep going.
Right. I mean, how many different Crows have we had?
Actually,
I mean,
you're right.
There've been direct to video, but also there've been theatrical releases, and we're getting another one.
Right. Well, wasn't there a moment where Jason Momoa was supposed to be Crow?
Oh yeah, and somebody else was too, and it was, you know what? I don't know that I've ever heard of a person of color
being the Crow.
Yeah, Jason Momoa would be about the closest because.
I agree.
But even then, do people look at him and go,
"Oh, that brown
Samoan
man,"
or whatever?
No. They just go.
No, they go. And he grunts at him, and they go, "Ah!"
Oh God, I love him.
And literally grunt.
Yeah,
that's what he was doing when he was in Columbus. I laughed though. I walked around and watched him grunting at people, pointing and grunting, and people were like, "Oh my God,
he grunted at me!
Yeah,
he loves me."
He's
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think we should talk about the Crow next time around because I'm very curious.
That'll be a short one.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll save that for next time. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Victor Dangerous, the hardest working man in comics.
And I've figured out the mics.
Good job.
I think.
You did it. No, I believe in you. Thanks again for tuning into the Chatterverse. We'll be back next time with even more conversations about pop media.